Hello everybody, and welcome again to my channel. This time I was going to talk about something a little bit different, not to do so much with logic and reasoning, but more so with feelings and emotion. And the subject I want to talk about is how the Watchtower and Jehovah's Witnesses steal your family from you, whether you are in the organization or whether you are out of the organization. And I am stating this as somebody who was raised as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. I wasn't born in, but I might as well have been. I spent 3 decades plus under the influence of the organization, up to the point of serving as an elder for almost 8 years. And for a long time I toed the line that Jehovah's Witnesses did not break up families, and that's the information you will find on their website. But what I'm going to do is share my personal experience of how Jehovah's Witnesses do in fact break up families. So obviously, since I served as an elder, I was a person who was deeply ingrained with Watchtower theology, teachings, whatever you want to call them. And I used to thoroughly believe the line that Jehovah's Witnesses do not break up families. The way it was kind of taught to us, and what I believed, was that if families become broken up, it's because individuals decide to reject God's teachings. And by their rejecting God's teachings, they are actually the ones who are breaking up the families. However, this is not the case. So within my own experience, my own individual family was broken up a couple of different ways. First of all, my immediate family, we were all at one point Jehovah's Witnesses. However, that did not last. Various members left at different times, and when they did, suddenly our association with them changed. We didn't talk to them as much, we didn't hang around with them as much. Depending on how they left, we might not have talked to them at all. I had members of my family disassociate themselves, I had members of my family disfellowshipped, and I had members of my family that just faded away. And in all of those cases, with the disassociation, we didn't talk to them unless we really had to. With the disfellowshipping, pretty much the same thing. Didn't talk to them unless we really had to. And these are members of my immediate family. But the standard for Jehovah's Witnesses is that if you don't live in the same household as that person, then you should try to limit your association as much as you possibly can, even if they're in your family. And the website says that, well, it doesn't break up family ties, but that is not true. That is not even a half-truth. That's not even a quarter truth. That's not even a tenth of the truth. The real truth is that if you are one of Jehovah's Witnesses, and you have a family member that was or is one of Jehovah's Witnesses, and leaves or is kicked out for any reason, you basically break off communication as much as you possibly can with that individual, to the point of avoiding them when necessary, and the only thing you really talk to them with or discuss with them is necessary family business. So you no longer are allowed to or can have a normal family relationship with that person. And I experienced that multiple times with within my own personal immediate family as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. But since I used to be drinking the Kool-Aid so heavily, I used to believe that was the right thing to do. And I used to assign the blame for that situation to the individuals who, for whatever reason, got kicked out or left. But even people that had left Jehovah's Witnesses without being kicked out or without writing a letter, I still would limit my association with them. So my relationship very much so changed with those individuals. Now, there's a second level of Jehovah's Witnesses breaking up your family. So in my particular case, we had extended family members who were not Jehovah's Witnesses. And what we ended up doing is basically keeping them at arm's length. Because as Jehovah's Witnesses are taught, you want everybody in your family to be Jehovah's Witnesses because you believe that's the only way for them to get salvation. So when they don't become Jehovah's Witnesses, you basically find ways to limit your association with them. And Jehovah's Witnesses are taught to have certain things they talk about, mostly centered around the activities of Jehovah's Witnesses and their version of God's kingdom and what that kingdom will do. And they abhor any holidays that originated outside of Jehovah's Witnesses, basically. So Typically speaking, in the United States, family oftentimes gets together at holidays because that's when everybody has time off. And they do whatever they do, but the deal is when you are one of Jehovah's Witnesses, you are not allowed to participate in those events. And you might try to make exceptions, but those exceptions you're making are putting a hardship on everybody else in your family because they've scheduled for that particular day to be in a particular place, and they might have other things going on the rest of the week, which makes it hard for them to add additional days or to be in a place on a different day. But as one of Jehovah's Witnesses, you cannot be with your worldly family on a worldly holiday because it's basically considered celebrating a holiday because that's basically what they're doing. So the real effect of this is that if you have family that are not Jehovah's Witnesses, you wind up pushing them away from you because you don't have the same time free that they do. And you act as if this is their fault because they're celebrating a holiday and you're not, and you're trying to go out of your way to accommodate them. But the reality is that their whole schedule revolves around the fact that people are available on certain days, and that's the day they've set aside, and they have other stuff to do. So by your not being willing or even able or even allowed to participate on those days, what you're doing is you're creating a hardship for the entire rest of your family. And this really struck home to me, especially after I woke up and stepped away and put myself in the shoes of my family. Because when I did that, they welcomed me back with open arms. And I will tell you, I cannot let you know how much I appreciate that and how much that means to me. But at the same time, I feel for those who have their entire family wrapped up within Jehovah's Witnesses. Because when you walk away from Jehovah's Witnesses, you basically walk away from your entire family. And the only reason for that is because Jehovah's Witnesses mandated. That's part of their teachings, is that you don't want to be that close to anybody that is not one of Jehovah's servants, even if they are your family. So their definition of being one of Jehovah's servants is that you are one of Jehovah's Witnesses in good standing, which means you're going to the meetings and you're going out in field service. So I spent 30 plus years of my life with my immediate family being the only ones that were Jehovah's Witnesses. And during that time, various different members left for various different reasons and in various different ways. And as those members left, I basically lost them as family members, seeing them maybe a couple times a year, maybe a couple times every couple of years. But when I left and walked away, once again, suddenly I had a family there for me, including those immediate family members who had left, but also including the extended family that I had held at arm's length for so long. So when you go on the jw.org webpage and they tell you how Jehovah's Witnesses don't break up families, from my experience, and this is coming from somebody who has served as a pioneer, as a ministerial servant, served as an elder for almost a decade. I at one point was service overseer, and at one point, I was never service overseer. I was the secretary, and I was the coordinator of the body of elders, and I served on more than one body of elders. I was trained to be an elder at the school for the coordinators of the bodies of elders at Patterson Bethel. So I am well versed in what it means to be one of Jehovah's Witnesses and how they want you to run the congregations of Jehovah's Witnesses. So with that experience, and having spent my life devoting myself to that particular belief, I can tell you for a fact that the Jehovah's Witnesses take your family from you, whether you are in the organization or whether you leave the organization. They break up families. They make it such that if you become one of Jehovah's Witnesses and your family doesn't, it's impossible to maintain a regular relationship because they make you focus on things that are unrealistic and unimportant. And your family, they just want to be family. They're not trying to convince you not to be one of Jehovah's Witnesses. They might say some stuff, but in the end, they probably don't really care. They would rather just have you there as family. But with Jehovah's Witnesses, that's not enough. Anybody that doesn't toe their line is not acceptable to them. And the end result of that situation is that you lose your family. And I am saying this as somebody who has pushed his family away for a long time, and I finally have them back. It's such a nice thing to realize that you have a family that's going to welcome you back and that's going to be there for you. So I'm very thankful for that. But once again, my heart goes out to those whose entire family are Jehovah's Witnesses, because when you leave Jehovah's Witnesses, that family is lost to you. You have very little hope, if any, of being able to maintain those family relations unless they're able to come out. And that's not because the people want to break off those connections, but rather it's because they've been instructed that that's what they have to do to make Jehovah happy. And that instruction comes from the organization. I've been on the other side of that. I've seen how much it hurts people to have to shun their family. It's absolutely devastating to them. But they do it because they believe that's what their God, Jehovah, wants them to do. So a lot of people that leave are really mad at their family because they're being shunned. But the funny thing about that is their family's hurting just as much as they are. So the real enemy here is not your family, but it's the organization that is making your family do that. And we would like to think that we're all free to make our choices, but when you are involved in something like Jehovah's Witnesses, you sacrifice some of that freedom. So for example, think back to when you were in the organization, if you were, and think back to how you treated people who were disfellowshipped. And ask yourself this question: did I not talk to them because I personally decided they were a bad person and I didn't want to talk to them? Or was it because somebody told me that they were a bad person? Think about the announcement, so-and-so is no longer one of Jehovah's Witnesses. They didn't tell you why. They didn't tell you what that person had done. You didn't know. You had no idea what happened. But all of a sudden, after that announcement, you had a job, and that job was to shun the individual whose name was announced. And again, I asked the question, is that because you personally wanted to shun them? You personally thought they were a horrible person? No, it's because you were told how to treat them. So that applies not just to friends that we may have had, but also to family. So that's kind of the point I'm trying to make. Jehovah's Witnesses break up families. They do not strengthen families. Anyways, thanks for listening.